with a different group. So, yeah.
Okay. We typically start out with a little reading, and it's been from the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. It's something that we kind of added while we were going along. Do you want me to read something, Paul, or what do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I decided to choose on page 100 of Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, and it's basically starting at the last paragraph. Assuming we are spiritually fit, we can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles if we go into their homes. We mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Our experience shows us that this is not necessarily so. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. His only chance for sobriety would be some place like the Greenland ice cap, and even there an Eskimo might turn up with a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. Ask any woman who has sent her husband to distant places on the theory that he would escape the alcohol problem. If our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods. These attempts do not. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. That includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, even plain ordinary whoopee parties. To a person who has experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like tempting providence, but it isn't. There you go.
Yeah, so in a way, this is, without changing the conditions that are underneath the drinking, then it just would be a yeoman's job to manage and control the external conditions to keep the alcoholic from drinking. Yes, so obviously that has failed, and it talks about, step 12, practice these principles in all our affairs. And if you can't limit your affairs, so in the beginning, you may need to limit your affairs, and sponsees and other people will suggest that. And if you follow their suggestions, you'll stay out of harm's way until the day you're not harm's way, in a sense. Yeah. So, of course, certain, if you're in intense condition, then certain means have to be taken. If when you start outgrowing those causes and conditions, those needs to be barricaded and locked away they're not first of all needed, and they don't work. So this is about outgrowing something. Yes. So in the beginning, when we come in, we may have to have a very strict regimen and to stay away from the tenderloin or whatever, or don't walk down the liquor aisle in Safeway. But that's not going to be the norm a few years later, because you're going to change. You're going to be changed by this program. And the conditions that cause you to be easy prey for alcoholism will change, and you'll have a defense against that first drink because you'll be in a spiritual condition. Yes. So instead of trying to do a mental, physical, and circumstantial condition, you'll be in a fit spiritual condition. So yeah, this was written for people who are just coming in, and just Yeah. So it's good to read, though. I haven't read it in a while, and uh, just telling you, yeah, you can control. This is what happens. A lot of people go into a 28-day program. Like when I used to speak at other different meetings, I would always ask the person, what's the most important day of a 28-day program? It's the 29th day. It's what you do when you leave the program. Yeah. And hopefully you now have AA to be that bridge from the controlled environment that kept you sober to a much more looser environment. Yeah. So this is what happens. People can do great. I did great in institutional settings. As soon as I left the institution, I had no defense against the first drink or the first drug. I was easy prey because the underlying conditions had been subordinated and contained and repressed, but they hadn't been changed. Yeah. So basically, I was just a drink waiting to happen. Yeah, now they could prolong it. I spent a 2 year stint in a program. And in those 2 years, I thrived not drinking and using. And when I left, that I had no defense against where the problem resides, the mental condition. It just talked to me and talked to me until things that were definitely not okay for me to do were presented as being okay for me to do. And then I picked up, and then I went off on a 10-month run. He ended up washed up on the shores of AA, thank God. So, yeah, this is just warning. And a lot of people need a boot camp, but a boot camp, even in that world of military, only lasts 6 weeks. It's not like 60 years of boot camp. Yeah. You have to go through like a shakedown situation, and then you're ready for the next phase. And there are next phases. Yeah. Recovery progresses just like the disease does. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I mean, again, it's all, of course, we love just to change everything around us, yeah, and then make it okay to make it to be okay to be us. But we're not okay being us under active addiction and alcoholism. It doesn't matter if you change all the scenery and shit like that. You're gonna bleed through. The alcoholism is gonna bleed through. Yeah, so this is about, like the 12 steps, they only mention alcohol once, right? It's more about the causes and conditions that bring us to where we find ourselves. Yeah. So that those causes and conditions, not, we admit that we can change it, and then there's a changing of it. And those causes and conditions change, and therefore we're not brought to states of mind and emotions that we were easily brought to before, because now we have a new basis, a new attitude, and a new outlook. Yes. Yeah. And we outgrow a lot of shit. Resentment, you're not going to outgrow my resentments. You're not, but you can outgrow resentment. Yeah, you can outgrow fear. Maybe more difficult to outgrow your fear because you're like tending the garden of your fear when it's yours. Yeah, you're watering it and shit like that. Uh, but fear can be outgrown, as it says in the big book. Resentments can be outgrown. Yeah, yeah. So thanks, guys. I'm getting the sun in my eyes. What's happening?
Thanks, Paul. This is if it generated any questions for you and you'd like to ask Paul something, please raise your hand by going to the reactions button. That's what it is on my Zoom, and clicking raise hand, and then I'll see it, and then you can ask your question. Looks like we've got one right up from Carrie.
Hey, what's up, guys? So, Paul, I just want to share a quick story about boot camp, because early in my addiction, I joined the Navy, and I went to San Diego for boot camp, and I had long hair, and I was from Montana. I had a lot of substances on board, mushrooms, marijuana. Anyways, they forgave all that, but boot camp, it was like a spiritual boot camp. I mean, I got kicked out basically for fighting. I wasn't a violent person, but I got caught smoking cigarettes, and next thing you know, I was just angry. The disease, so-called. Just what I'm trying to say is like how people change. Like, but all that had to happen, right? I mean, all of us, everything that happened to every one of us had to happen, because otherwise it wouldn't have happened. And at the time, I was like so angry. And then like, it took years and years of being angry. And I still get angry, but not like I used to. So what happened is Grace came in, and then the search started. The search, because I was raised Catholic, Irish Catholic. And searching, I knew there was a God. I thought there was a God. It wasn't the God I read about, but there was something out there. And then stuff started happening that I couldn't explain, like wild stuff. Yeah, people won't believe. And I know you know, because this happened to you. And then I kept searching, reading, searching, reading. And then I stumbled onto you. And like what hit me was the statement, what you're looking for is what's looking. That like stopped me in my tracks, like stopped me, like just stunned me for a while. Just like, it just was so, but then I still go back, you know, but I know underneath it that's it, you know, that what I'm looking for is what's looking. And I just wanted to share that, and just, I am grateful to everyone that's in this meeting and everyone who's not. And, you know, with that, I'm going to pass. Thanks.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks for the share. Yeah. Yeah, and thanks everyone who runs these meetings. Yeah. Or, yeah, the commitment says a lot. So, yeah. You know, that's why it's helpful to have a sponsor and sponsee, right? So that they can help you with sort of how to make the best conditions in your daily activities. Yeah, and because everyone in AA has gone through very similar stuff, and there's a giant resource of knowledge about how to face life successfully and through all the different phases of recovery. Because obviously, in that reading, they weren't at the point of entertaining the idea of what it's like to be a free range alcoholic, you know, which is you can go places and things, you're not ducking shit, and you know what I mean? You're just and it's not like bravado, it's just a fact. I just completely lost interest in not so much the alcohol and the drugs, but escaping, because I realized I can't escape. It says I'm here. So it's time, all right, you finally caught me, you got to grow up to some extent and sort of face, you know, life on life's terms and fit yourself around circumstances, and starting to fit yourself around, or, you know, trying to fit them around you. And these things were daunting to me. And the solution was to admit that I couldn't do it. Yeah. Just to admit that I just, you know, my problem wasn't drinking, it's living sober. Yeah. So I needed to admit that powerlessness and then I felt power, you know, and then I saw what I couldn't do done, yeah, by something else over and over again. And I saw it happen with tons of other people. And to me, that's the principle of living day to day, is surrender, really, or actually surrendered, where I'm just not managerial quality. That wasn't based on my drinking or my using. That exasperated the effects, but I'm just not managerial quality. I'm outmatched here. Yeah. And, I was trying to deny that and avoid that and escape from that. And then I finally was brought to a point of acceptance of that. Yeah. And the third step is, completely vital in this life, because surrendered is when there's a being convinced. Yeah. So there's surrender and then there's surrendered. And so surrender, being convinced of, is to me surrendered. Yeah. And then those things that were completely, they were facts before I got into in the program. The facts of the first step. I was in denial and in defiance of that, and I got my ass royally kicked when I got into an agreement with those conditions that I'm not managerial quality, and you know what I mean. That it was probably not a good idea for me to drink or use a day at a time. Once I got aligned with that, things got very, very. They went quite well. Yeah. So basically, I needed an adjustment. AA provided it and gave me a way of life to allow those adjustments to really take root, where my old attitude and outlook was replaced with a new attitude and a new outlook. And my old ideas of freedom and happiness was replaced with new ideas of freedom and happiness. Yeah. And let's say they're both shoes, but one fits a whole lot better. So I'm just going to keep wearing those shoes, so to speak. So, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Carrie, for opening that up. I don't see any other hands, but I can oh, we got one. Chris has got one. Chris Trissler, come on in.
Hi, Chris, alcoholic.
Chris?
Yeah, good to be here. So my question has to do with something I'm kind of struggling with now. And I think it has a lot to do with fear, although there's some probably trauma and emotional, deep-seated shit tied in with it. And it's talking in front of groups of people, AA meetings specifically, but there's like a visceral fucking fear of what others think or how I'm perceived or whether I'm making sense. And, and a lot of that's kind of projected towards like maybe people that I deem are very well studied in the 12 steps or non-duality that project confidence and that type of thing. But it's been really difficult for me, especially lately, And I mean, I've been around this deal at least as long as you have, not sober the entire time, but it's something that I continue to run up against, And I don't know if it's based on past trauma or what, but I get that it has something to do with fear, but it's just not something that's easily overcome. I just wondered, and I hope it's not off topic, but I wondered if you could talk on that a little bit.
Yes. I would bring that up, when you have that fear come up, bring it to step 6 and 7. You recognize it, and then that's your job. Then you put it on the plate of 6 and 7. There's a recognition. You just did it. You just shared a recognition of this fear of how you believe other people are thinking of you and stuff like that. Well, take that. When that shows up, that's not meant for you to go survey and do an autopsy. It's for us to just turn it over to this power so it can reconfigure it. Yeah, it's just energy at the root, and then it gets these weird mutated forms by the mental idea freaking playing with it for years. So yeah, that's what I would do if I was sitting here and if this fear came up. There would be a noticing of it, and then I would say, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this, which I'm feeling right now, reconfigured. I don't like removed, because I don't think you can remove energy, but energy can be reconfigured. So reconfigured. So I do step 6 and 7 when that stuff shows up. Yeah. And especially if you say it's a chronic thing, then it shows up a lot. Well, each opportunity for it to show up is an opportunity for it to be reconfigured. So really, this is why, sometimes when I got into AA, I thought it was a drag that all this shit that I'd been conveniently avoiding for years kept popping up. But it kept popping up so it could be changed. Yeah. And the vehicle we have of that change is step 6 and 7. Yeah. Because no one's going to see it. You're seeing it. Yeah. And I feel the best, as if you can get it when it's just coming out of the oven, there's more juice there. So it hasn't really, it's not like an 8-year cold case and you try to do an autopsy on a dead body. It's alive right then, and then just bring it to 6 and 7. Yeah. See how it goes. Try it for a while. Yeah. And I feel definitely my experience and my observation is that energy changes. Yeah, it does. So I'm a real big believer, especially if you have a lot of time. I think the most active steps can be 6 and 7, because, in the beginning, you got to get the common manifestations of self. Yeah, you got to do an inventory of that. The more subtle manifestations happen as the years go by, and you get down to some roots. Yeah. And those roots, they're not meant for you to get tangled with. They're meant to be brought to step 6 and 7. That's why we have those steps there. Yeah. And, in a meeting, steps 6 and 7 can be done. You can be listening about alcoholism and it will hit you. And then, I take it right up into 6 and 7. A meeting isn't free of the working the steps. Yeah. It's not a free zone. You can actually, because a lot of alcoholism is talked about. And so hopefully you recognize it not as their alcoholism, but as alcoholism, and you bring it up to step 6 and 7. And then what happens? You get results. And then what happens? That produces more of an intimacy with the higher power, if you want to call it that, or the higher power and movement. Yeah. And that becomes a solid basis of your life, reliance on the higher power. Because if you start thinking about it, or there's a lot of thoughts about this shit, it's reliance on self. Yeah. If you massage the fear and shit with thoughts, and then you think an understanding is going to free you from it when it hasn't. Yeah. Yeah. That's reliance on self. Perhaps there's a better way, trusting in the infinite. How is that demonstrated? Step 6 and 7. You're trusting the infinite. Yeah. Hey, this thing's really bothering me. I'd really like to get out of it. Maybe I can manage myself out of it or try to control it. No, you bypass that and you bring it to 6 and 7. And that's trusting the infinite, isn't it? That's like a living demonstration of the better way in your own life, like in a minute or a second. Yeah. So that would be a suggestion that I take myself. When shit comes up, that's like at night when there's dreaming. Sometimes I wake up and I have a trail of it, and a lot of times I have very patterned dreaming. Yeah, they're about the same thing, and I bring it to 6 and 7. Yeah, because something's disturbed in the action figure. It is. Yeah, I see it. What am I going to do? Set out on a journey to change that as the action figure? I realize that doesn't work. I take it to 6 and 7. Yeah. Yeah. So
Thanks.
that would be a suggestion. And then you can also always see that really you're not worried about what other people are thinking about you. You're thinking that you know what other people are thinking about you. There's a faith again in self. Yeah, this is the whole thing. If you die, every moment can be seen as you're either leaning this way or that way. Yeah, and if you're in the habit of leaning that way, yeah, we need a program to get into the habit of leaning this way. And part of that is 6 and 7. It's a big part of it. Because what happens? Alcoholism appears, yeah, and you get engaged with it. It's one, so to speak. Alcoholism appears and you bring it to the higher power. That's perhaps the better way. Yeah. This isn't like a monumental one day of the year. This is like day to day, moment to moment, shit's coming up. So if you see it and it has a sense of chronicness and connected to trauma, whatever, bring it to step 6 and 7. It doesn't need any more review, really, I feel. Yeah. Not at that moment. Then go and get therapy or body work or whatever. Who knows what life has in store for us. But at least you can bring it right then and there when you get the sense of it to that power so it can reconfigure it. Maybe put it to use for yourself and others because you can't, obviously. Yeah. So I'm in that camp of 6 and 7. Sounds like a perfect example of because you see it, but to see it isn't, you see, this is so like I got struck sober, but it would have died on the vine unless I got introduced to a way of life. So you see it, and then the head rushes in and takes over. That's the opportunity was missed, so to speak. Yeah. The self runs up and takes over and has a whole story of why and this and that. If you could give it over to the higher power before it's given over to the self, yeah, things change. Most definitely. So, yeah.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
question,
Paul.
Chris. That was really good. Thanks, Paul. I don't see any. Oh, here we go. Kurt C. Unmute
Hey,
yourself
buddy.
and follow up.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I think what you said, Paul, was there's that phrase in I think Course in Miracles, nothing has any meaning except for the meaning you give to it. You don't. I used to have that same kind of fear, where I would think I knew what they were thinking, but I didn't see that. I didn't see that because I was listening to the narrative in my head that was telling me what was going on.
Yeah.
And, seeing that was friggin' revelatory. I mean, that was all of a sudden you go, wait a minute. I think it ties into that part of the book where it says we're a victim of a delusion that we think we can wrest satisfaction if we manage well. We're a victim of this delusion,
Yeah.
like I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And then see, the thing is, the faith in the system, and then the system goes out to see if there's any leaks or cracks in the system. It's not going to come back with the truth. It's got an investment in not informing us of what's going on. Truly, yes. And so we have to try to get in the habit of bringing it to something else before it brings us somewhere else. Bring it to somewhere else before it takes us to somewhere else. Yeah, because that's what happens. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, and it's a habit like everything else. So, a habit is an action without thought. Yeah. If thoughts are part of the problem, if they're infected with alcoholism, you'd really at least have a certain suspension before the thoughts rush in, or a pause, so that something else can occur. Like before they get their hands on the product, you give it over. Yeah, I swear. Because you know what they're going to do with it. You know, fuck. You'll be right and alone. You'll- So, I mean, Jesus. Yeah. It's a habit. Everything's habit. Yeah. You don't think your way through shit. Yeah. You don't. You're in a habit of relying on the infinite. And that really, really is the new basis. Yeah. It really is. And then you start seeing, like Kurt just shared, more and more gets revealed about what you aren't noticing or seeing, which is reliance on self. You get to see a lot of it, because you're not in it now. You see it. You see the head just going off, and and it all seems to boil down to one statement: reliance on self. In a verb. You don't, not as a topic you wrote about, but seeing it now. Yeah. You see the reliance on self. Thank God it isn't you. Yeah. So hopefully, and fundamental, that's like what, the hot and the cold water coming out of the spigot. That's fundamental. Perhaps the better way, trusting the infinite or finite self. That's fundamental. That's like very base. And that base has influence completely with everything else that goes. Yeah. So this is where the real change occurs. Yeah. Is at those bases, the new attitude and new outlook. Yeah. That's where it does. And so the head, you're here in a moment, the head presents a case. Yeah. You're used to saying, getting involved in it, and then gets taken away seemingly. Yeah. And then shit hits the fan, and then you're brought back to your senses, and you go, what the fuck happened? Well, there was a pause before that. That pause is where 6 and 7, yeah, that's the transport waiting, the 6 and 7 transport. That pause, what shows up, turned over. Instead of that pause, forgotten, what turns up, go with. Yeah. Yeah. It's really the definition of traveling lighter, in a sense. Yeah. 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 See, those thoughts about worrying about what people think are still going on. I just don't take them to be mine. This isn't about everything gets dismissed. The same presentation of a life is presented, but you're not buying it anymore. Yeah, that's the point. The advertising, I haven't needed a hernia belt for 10 years, but they keep showing hernia belts because at one point I needed a hernia belt. So hernia belt commercials. But I look at my condition, I don't need a hernia belt, so I'm not interested in hernia belt. Advertisements, yeah? It was like the old story of being in Turkey when I went to that rug emporium and I was traveling around the world. I had nowhere to live. Based on the fact I had nowhere to live, I wasn't open to buying a rug, yeah? You know what I mean? If I had a house, I would have bought one. I would have, because they were great. The advertising for the rug was incredible, but I had an understanding I don't have a house. I don't have any place to put the rug. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Though they were great. They're beautiful rugs, everything like that. But I had a very stubborn acknowledgement. I don't have a house. There's no floor, FLOOR. And they wanted to pack it up in my backpack and I was going to travel with it. No way. And I sat there 3 hours. I could have sat there 3 days. I wasn't going to buy a rug. Yeah. This is sort of like the spiritual condition. Yeah. If the spiritual condition, which I believe is our inherent nature, yeah, and it's fit in and of itself, yeah, it gives you an immunity to the advertising that you can't get as the consumer. You can't get it. Yeah. It's going to give you an immunity to it. Yeah. But the guy's going to knock on the back door, the front door, the skylight, the cellar window. Yeah, they're going to try to sell you a rug or a vacuum when you don't have hardwood floors. Why am I going to buy a vacuum? Yeah. Yes. The conditions have to be there for everything else to look so attractive. That's what the program does. It changes the underlying causes and conditions. I was clear I did not have a flaw, FLOOR. I was therefore not going to buy a rug. Yes. Yeah. It's just, look at people. The sharing was in the book was, I did it for 2 years. As long as I was confined in a setting that they watched over you 24/7, I could do pretty well. Yeah. Now, did I want to live like that the rest of my life? No, I didn't. I didn't want to live in Delancey Street for 40 years. Nothing wrong with it. I just didn't have that, So basically, I needed to be armed in a different way than, barricades and locks and, you know what I mean? Iron windows coming down. I needed to have some kind of freedom that traveled with me, not that I had to travel to, and then barricade myself in there, but something that traveled with me, as me. Yeah. This is what AA offers. We don't have Fort AA. We don't have Fort AA. And you know what I mean? We do cadence marching and then we go into Fort AA and we batten down the hatches. It's going to be a terrible night. There's trucks driving with Budweiser on the side. Don't look out the window. No, maybe you have to do that, but that's not what we grow into through the program. We grow out of that shit. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. 6 and 7.
Thanks, Paul, especially for Fort AA. That's good. We do have another question. Oliver, if you'd like to come in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this meeting. Hello, Paul. Well, as you know, I get sometimes a bit messy with terminology, and I'm in the middle of something here. I wonder about the attention. There's this, when we talk about the infinite, we talk about relying, trusting the infinite. We're talking about conscious contact with higher power. So, faith in the infinite, that's on the one side. On the other side, there's this seeing, realizing of what you're not, that you're not selfing. There's observing that, what you're not. I guess my question is, where do we direct our attention to, and do we do it deliberately, and is it attention as it is currently in my brain, connected only, to be directed at a certain direction, like the infinite or the opposite direction, in order to realize what we're not, or we shouldn't actually connect it to either, because currently I think I'm connecting it, to either, it's either, attention to, in order to see what I'm not, or it's opposite. I need to pay attention, to be conscious of reliance on the infinite,
Yeah, I think they're not exclusive. So there's things going on, but I don't suggest it to people, but the way it works with me better was just seeing that I was fucked. Yeah. And telling the truth about that. Yeah. So because the trusting finite self is tricky, because if you're identified as that self, when you try to trust the infinite, it's actually doubling back and is reinforcing the faith in finite self once again. So it's important to be clear about that. So I would just.
Sorry, so you're saying, if I'm trying to do deliberately, somehow induce trust in the infinite, I'm actually doing it from a place.
It can be, because we're in the act. See, in time, it's a very fast process. The sense of that you are self, so to speak. Yeah, you're a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. That's the doer, the feeler, the taster, the toucher, and you're the one that's going to direct the attention to the infinite, which will be more attention on the finite. Yeah, you see that, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why not just see that? And because there's no, once the trust is released from the finite, it basically, the only place it lands is in the infinite. You can't miss the mark. Yeah, you just lose interest in this mental ideation, and then there's a gaining of interest in infiniteness. Yes. Yeah. I don't see there's a choice to go. It's sort of like the fallback programming. There's not too many options. So you just see what it looks like to trust the finite self and learn some stuff, because it has some tricks. Because you're dealing with a very tricky thing called identification. So identification can lead to someone whose name is Paul taking Stanley's manifestations through Paul as Paul's. Yeah. So, and for years and years and years, not seeing what's going on because of the act of identifying as Stanley. Yes. Even though you're held as Paul, you're actually in the act of identifying as Stanley. So Stanley's manifestations are being called yours all day. Yeah, because there's an ignorance concerning Stanley and Paul. They're not clear. So to me, we are the infinite. So there's no need to trust it, really. We're not the finite. So there's a need not to trust it.
Right.
In a way, if you can pull it, see it that way. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I guess
not an act of trusting the infinite. There's just an act of not trusting the finite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we are the infinite. So there's no need to really trust it. You are it.
Is there a need to direct?
Hold on one second. The problem with trusting the finite is you think you are the finite. Yeah. This is the dilemma. Yeah. That's why when we have a statement, self can't get out of self, is totally rooted in the act of identification. That's why that statement is so profound, because there's an act of identification that's not being seen that causes us to look from it. Yeah. And that causes a lot of like, why doesn't it work? Because something happens when you're trying. It's like the statement of quit playing God. If that which is playing God hears the statement quit playing God and sets out, like you're talking about directing your attention here, sets out to quit playing God, that's playing God. You can't get out of it. Yeah. That which is playing God can't get out of playing God. Yeah. But we can be out of it because we're not that which is playing God. That's the movement, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no need to direct deliberately our attention. That's there's only attention.
Well, yeah, because if you direct the attention, you may miss the forest by concentrating on a tree. Yeah. So
Right.
basically, the infinite is not of a thing or a particular location. It's everywhere. It's more dispersed. Yeah. Like there's a great movement in Tibetan Buddhism called Dzogchen, and they have a statement for it called relaxed awareness. Yeah. So this isn't focused awareness, because relaxed awareness is you're in it completely. Yes. There's no, by trying to be in it, you're out of it, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that gets clear.
Yeah, I mean, even more clear. I mean, I'm connecting it now with the stuff that you said earlier. Yeah.
All right. Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some fantastic questions. Thanks a lot, Oliver. That was very helpful to me. Thanks, Paul. I don't see any additional questions or raised hands right now. We have one more. Kurt's going to follow up. Go ahead, Kurt.
I just want to say what he said last week, Paul said last week, or the week before, in regards to that, was he said, you said there's not, you don't lose interest in self. There's a loss of interest in self. It's not skillful means,
No.
right? It's conscious awareness. It's not, it's almost like when you see it, that's the freeing of it. It's almost like that, right?
Yes. See, so like someone shared the other day, he's grateful for resentments, because resentments, when they come up, show him that there's no one who has them. So in a way, that's a new kind of understanding you get now. That which you were trying to swat away and avoid is actually quite valuable, because it's informing you you're not of that. Yeah. So yeah, it's trippy. That's a very cool view. So resentment, not held as yours, has a value because it's not of you. So yeah, how would you come to that if you didn't see it? Yeah. So therefore, yeah. But do you actually see a resentment when it's immediately christened as yours? No, you don't. You see more of you, the you that you're not in it, than you do the resentment. Yeah. 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 So this is, again, the you is gobbles up everything. Yes. It makes everything to be about it. So the resentment is now my resentment. Yeah. Fear, my fear. Now you got a whole different beast than fear. Yeah, you've got something manufactured, made up, where there's an investment in being the one who's in fear. Yeah. And then you may sing and cry that you'd love to be out of fear. But I've sat with people that are not in, they do not want to, their whole identity is in fear. Yeah. That head has no interest in getting out of it, really. It just wants to talk about it to other people. But it doesn't have an interest of getting out of the fear, because it's of fear. Yeah. So this is, you see stuff. You see the stuff. And when you see it in someone else, it's always available where you are. So you can bring it to 6 and 7. I don't understand. Why do you think the point of 6 and 7 is? Wasn't like a thing you did for an hour or whatever, and that's the end of it. Yeah. You make a statement, and then you see everything contrary to that statement. As the failed system keeps fucking putting out its shit, you recognize it, and bring it to the higher power so it gets reconfigured, put to a different use. Yeah. I mean, at this point, you know, you're actually at the recycling plant. Yeah. You're in a way participating in the recycling with the awareness that we are. We're watching what could be recycled. Yeah. It's not a judgment of bad or good. It's just old, or it's mutated, or it's just twisted on itself. Let's see if it would, you know, there'd be more spring in it, you know, if you could straighten it out. And I can't do that, but something can. Yeah. Just like something got me sober, where no human power could do that. So yeah, why wouldn't I bring it there? So 6 and 7 is very important as a step in as you keep living in sobriety. Yeah. The other things get solid. That's the moving pieces now, 6 and 7. The principles are solid. The third step is solid. Yeah. These things, you've done the working steps. You've got a life sort of you're being used for service in some form or another. But the real, you know, activity of recovery is recognizing the old dregs, you know, as they get sucked up into the conscious level of seeing them. They get them, like, you know, they could be put to better use. Yeah. I mean, that's the feeling of being alive. Is, you know, does a storage unit feel like it's alive? No. It's this old shit there, no windows, nothing, tons of boxes. This is like opening the windows, opening those boxes and getting rid of unsaleable shit. All right? Yeah. How's that? What's the process of that? 6 and 7. What gets more revealed? In my feeling, what gets revealed is what I'm not. Yeah. What becomes more and more obvious is what I am. It's not what I am. What is it being revealed to? I don't want it to be revealed to what I'm not. It would just fucking be claimed and make a story of Paul. Yeah. What gets revealed is what I'm not. Yeah. I get to feel and sense what I am. Hallelujah. I don't get to know it or understand it, because I'd have to be something else for that to occur. Yeah. So how do I get a real feeling of me? By seeing what I'm not, really. That's how I get it. That's how it stays alive. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
I mean, everyone could do 6 and 7 concerning what our friend shared. Everyone has a fear of what other people are thinking of them. Every action figure has that. Yes. You're walking around and you're wondering what your partner is, yeah. We get used to just give me the broom and I'll just put it under the rug, But this is a different way of life, a reclamation of energy so that it can be put to better use. Yeah. That energy is us. So, yeah. You don't go overboard with it. I don't look at everything that happens during the day, but I get a feeling sometimes, and that feeling directs me to go, hey, do a formal, offering to that power. Yeah. Mm.
And then that's your way of life.
Well, the way of life is, I'm lucky, the problem doesn't exist for me as what I would call the problem. Yeah. So I'm free from an urge or a drive to, drink or use drugs. that hasn't come up in years and years and years. So that gives you a great possibility of getting more shit undone, really. Yeah. With the same principle that something can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. That's the whole point. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Thanks everybody for your questions. This has been really great. I don't see any other questions, and it's 1:28 my time, which would be, well, it's time for us to finish if you want to start your goodbye.
Yeah, let's do that. Everything's cool. All right, we got Walter. Walter, nice to see you, my friend. We got Kurt Z. And also, before we say goodbye, on the website, we're going to have an event in Italy in September, I feel, if enough people sign up. And Amelia, my girlfriend, she's from Italy. She's trying to set it up. She's actually got it all set up. It's really pretty good. So it's on the information's on the website, and you can get in touch with her. But if you show interest, it will give us an idea if we can pull it off or not. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So now, Kurt, nice to see you. Yeah. Now, Kurt, this is very interesting. I was watching this show, this crime show that's set in Norway. And the story is that there's an American serial killer there. Now that's older. And the picture of him while he's younger looks just like you. I swear to God. I said, it's Kurt. Kurt's moved back to America. He's a serial killer. I swear, it was great. Amelia and I had a really good laugh because they kept going back to this old picture. I said, that's Kurt Zimmerman. Have you been to Norway recently?
Not lately.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Wouldn't admit it anyway.
But I swear it was great. So we got Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira. Thank you, Mickey. We got Paul sitting there. Nice to see you, my friend. Stefan on Having Never Left. Jacob, he sets up a lot of these talks and keeps this thing going. Maria. Yes. Alex from the Hudson Valley. There she is. Ruby Rose from Wichita. Yeah. We've got Kelly. Nice to see you, Kelly. I don't know where you're from, but it's nice to see you. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome. We got Tom from Keene, New Hampshire. Kaiser, he's back. Are you back in Minneapolis, Kaiser?
Yeah, I'm. It's nice and warm here. I'm in Minnesota. Yeah.
Minnesota. Yeah. We got Chris T. Thank you, Chris, for the share today. It opened up a lot. Roman, as always, nice to see you. We got Jono from the UK. Nice to see you, Jono. Terry from Maine. Ted McGowan from Redondo.
Hey, Paul, I had the privilege of putting your friend up, David, from Australia for a few days on his travels. Quite an experience.
Yeah. I agree with everything but the your friend. I don't know. I have a little question about that. So let's not jump to too many conclusions.
No, he was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, great. Yeah, great. Yeah. He's the one who set up these talks. So
yeah,
Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah. Thank you, bro. We got Oliver in Berlin. Nice to see you, Oliver. Thanks for the share. Connor from Dublin. Nice to see you, Connor. Let's see who else we got here. We got Chris from Mammoth Lakes. He's next to the wood stove. We got William L. He's chilling out on a couch. Steve from Germany. There he is. Nice to see you, Steve. We got video. Yeah. We got PK. He's looking like he's going to like American Ninja or something. He's getting ready for the new season. Got a strange outfit there.
I want to give all thanks to Coach Hedderman, Long Island Express team.
We got Carl. Nice to see you, Carl. Michael Stacy from Madeira, Rich A from United Kingdom, Nina, not Tina or Mina. I've been eternally corrected. It's Nina. Yes. All right. Things keep moving. More people show up. All right. Well, listen. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure. Spend some time with all of us, and have a good day. And don't take yourselves so seriously. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
See
Paul.
you, Jacob. See you, everyone. Kelly, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody.